My brothers and sisters, good morning. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Epiphany. Certainly we've experienced a lot these past few weeks, and certainly we need to take it all in, maybe reflect a little bit on what's transpired. You know, one thing about Father Steve, he's a great football fan. I think everybody's recognized that a little bit. He knows how to pack a bench. He has all his brother priests fill in for him, and he always makes good choices. Last weekend, while he was gone, a little bit of reflection and time to get R&R and go to a priest conference, he had Father Simons fill in for him. I think this man is genuinely a good and kind and holy man. I was really taken back by the fantastic homily that he had last weekend. In fact, it was part of my reflection for the week. Father Tom talked about how Mary held all these events in her heart and how she really hung on to those events, the actions of God upon her life, bringing this child into the world as a gift to you and I. Certainly, he mentioned all the journeys that Mary traveled to experience this wonderful gift, the hardships that she would face in her life. But she would remember. You stop and think about what Mary saw and experienced. Jesus making wine out of water at Cana. Jesus healing people. Certainly, she saw a lot. She would really remember and reflect all her life long. And I think it's important for you and I to do the same, especially at this feast we call the Epiphany. And what is Epiphany? It's God revealing himself. And as today we heard from Isaiah, we hear his prophecy of this person going to be born in our world, of this child, long foretold, the Christ child. And that Christ child for you and I does nothing other than open the vestibule of heaven for us. We have a chance to peer in and understand that God welcomes us to share his life. It's magnificent. I think we should never underestimate the power of this Epiphany. God reveals himself most fully through the birth of a little tiny child. He enters our world to share our lives, to lead us, to redeem us, to give us salvation, but further to sanctify us, to make us understand that God is not distant or unapproachable. God is near and God is here. I think we need to hear that. So, at the time of Epiphany, our hearts should be filled with jubilation, with joy of all that's transpired in our lives. We need to really be like Mary, to reflect what God has been doing for us. We have a God who loves us. He gives us his very best. He gives us his Son. Certainly, you know, when we reflect, we have a sense of gratitude. You know, these magi, they're kind of people that are great figures for us to follow. You see, they followed God's lights, they traveled the path, and they sought the one, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the healer, the divine one, the one who would usher salvation into our world. That's who they sought. And you and I need to take that same path in our own lives. We need to constantly seek Jesus. You see, Jesus is our all. He's the answer that redeems what we need in our lives. So, you know, these past few weeks, they may have been chaos for a lot of us, but really they're meant to center us, to make us understand that our lives are important to the person that created us. He doesn't leave us orphans, but he gives us the fullness of life through the gift of the Son. Mary retold the stories of her encounters with God. She told this story so that the gospel writers would pass them on, so that you and I could experience what she experienced, that we would recognize this child for who he truly was. I don't think we can say enough. I really don't. And I find myself thinking this past week on all that Father Simon said. Somehow I feel this homily is somehow a sequel about reflection and how it's so important for us to do that in our lives, our fast-paced lives where they get easily filled with things that maybe aren't so important. But I also stood in wonder at these magi, at the gifts that they brought to the Lord. And I think each and every one of us, maybe we don't have gifts of gold or frankincense or myrrh to give him, but we do, we truly do have the gift of our lives to offer the Lord. Amen.